Hello and welcome. Today we are going to show you how to make a very simple and delicious lemon curd. This is how we do it. All right, cool. First we are going to zest 2 fresh lemons. These are washed really well because we want to get off all the pesticides if you don't have organic. We are going to need 2 tablespoons. Oh my gosh, that smells amazing. All right, so the name of the game here, if you've never done this before, you're gonna wanna get just the bright yellow part. Don't get too much into the white because that's where the bitterness is. It doesn't really have a whole lot of lemon flavor. So try and just skin off the outer side. Don't go too deep. That's why you see me lift it up and checking quite often, is because I wanna make sure that I'm getting the rind off, but not the pith part. I've got my lemon zest to the side. We've got our 2 tablespoons here, ready to go. That was exactly 2 lemons worth. And now we're gonna juice them. Now, to yield the best juice out of them, you can microwave them for just a little bit. I don't prefer to do that because I don't ever get the timing right, but you can. What I prefer to do is I squash them. You'll just kind of roll them a little bit, release those juices on the inside, kind of roll them real light, and I kind of like to pop the ends just a little bit too because you just want to get that all going. It smells so amazing. This fresh lemons just make you happy. I don't know, they just do. All right, so we're gonna cut it in half. Okay, you see the juice already coming out? It's because we loosened it up. So you want to make sure you do that. I have an electric juicer here. If you don't have one of these, you can squeeze it. You can do it any way you want, or a manual one or whatever. But we're just going to release the juice out of it. One thing I did forget to mention too, in this lemon curd recipe, do not substitute for the bottled juices. It isn't the same. It's not gonna taste the same. You're gonna have your flavor's way off. It's too acidic. So make sure that when you do this, you use fresh lemons or it's just not the same. So keep that in mind. All right, we're gonna take out the seed catcher guard. If you want to strain this further, you can. There's little tiny bits of pulp in this. I don't really mind, but if you want to strain it out further to just have complete straight juice, you can do that. I've got 6 eggs here. I'm going to separate them out. We need the yolks separated from the whites. It's very, very important because if you have anything mixed in together with your whites don't set up quite right. So you don't need any of the protein getting mixed in there. You want to be very careful when you do this. If you haven't separated eggs before, make sure that you don't smash on them real hard or pull them apart. Don't be real aggressive on it, be really gentle. Take your time, it's okay. Because if you have your yolk in the wrong spot on some of these edges, it'll penetrate your egg yolk and you'll have it in your whites, which is what we're trying to avoid, right? So just be really careful with that. For this recipe, we're only gonna need the egg yolks. So with the egg whites, you can either freeze those for something later, or you can make a meringue from it or whatever. But we're not gonna use that for the rest of the lemon curd recipe. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take our 6 yolks, and I'm going to run it through a strainer into a saucepan, just so that if there's any other bits of stuff, we don't want it to be lumpy. We don't want to have a stringy curd, so we want to make it very smooth and silky. Okay, now just because I want to make sure I get all the rest of that yolk in there, I'm going to take our lemon juice and pour this on top. Get some more in there. There we go. I'm going to use our 1 cup of sugar. and our 2 tablespoons of lemon zest. Okay, now that that's all mixed in, we're going to turn this on low. Make sure that it is on low. If you don't have a really low setting on your stovetop, you're going to want to make sure that you put it under a double boiler, because you don't want these eggs to curdle and be lumpy. It's okay if it takes a little bit longer. It's better to go extra slow than too fast and you ruin the whole thing and you have to start over. You don't want to do that. Make sure that once this starts to get up to heat, you do not stop whisking it. It has to be constantly moving until you take it off the heat, which will probably be, well, depending on your settings, it's going to be roughly 4 or 5 minutes. So we're going to continue to heat this up on low until it just starts to boil. It's going to start to thicken and it's going to get to kind of a simmering boil. You'll know when you've hit it the right temperature and the right consistency when you take it out and the mixture coats a spoon real well. If you draw a line down it and it sticks, that's it. Then you've got it. Okay, I'm just gonna test it just for funsies. Do you see how that's holding up right there when I draw my line right through it? That line, now that it's holding like that, that means that we are done. So I'm gonna take it off my heat. Mine didn't quite get to boiling, but that's okay. I ended up cooking mine for probably 10 minutes instead of like the 5, because my burner's a little weird right here for these episodes. But so if you go for a little bit longer than 5 minutes like I did, it's okay. Just know that your arms are gonna die, but you'll be fine. Now that it's off our heat, it's okay if you stop stirring. Now we're gonna add in a half a cup of cold butter. This is unsalted butter, make sure it's unsalted, and it's gonna help cool it down and give it that nice creamy texture. All right, let's dump this in. Come on. Woo. And we are gonna make sure we stir it until this is fully melted. Don't just walk away, okay? And remember, when it cools, it's going to thicken some more. So if you think it's a little bit too runny, don't worry, it's gonna thicken up. This smells like heaven in here. It smells like sunshine. It's so good. Especially on a cold winter's day that it is, at least where we're at. It kind of reminds you that winter won't last forever. This would be good for a barbecue in the summer too, so keep that in mind. All right, I don't feel any more butter in there. I don't see any more butter in there, so we are going to transfer this to a bowl to cool and make sure that we seal it off with plastic wrap. That's kind of the point of putting that cold butter in there too, is to help cool it down. But then you're going to want to make sure that it sits in your fridge for at least a good couple of hours to get it nice and cold for your usage. I've heard people make pies with this. You could make cake fillings. You can put it on toast in the morning. Over ice cream. It's just really fantabulous. If you want this super, super, super creamy, you can take this back out and you can strain it back out into your bowl where you're gonna store it. I like the little lemon bits, so I am not worried. I'm just gonna dump it right in. I like those little rays of sunshine in my food personally, but it is totally your preference. And it depends on what you're planning on doing with it. You know, sometimes you really need it just absolutely as creamy as you can get it. I like to leave things a little more natural, but to each his own, right? That's the joys of food and cooking. You can make it however you want. I take a lot of recipes as kind of a basic guide and then make it my own, and that's what's so fun about it. Beautiful. Yep, it's perfect. Now, if you don't cover this over, and I'm talking about like don't cover it like this, we're gonna put it right on top of our curd because it will form a skin if you do not. So we are going to Make sure that is airtight. If you have a better way or a way you prefer to do this instead, use your way, that is a-okay. You don't have to do everything I do. I just have done it this way, but doesn't mean there aren't other ways. Okay, perfect. Okay, we're gonna stick it in the fridge for probably about 2 or 3 hours to make sure it's not even really hard. It's more room temperature right now because of that cold butter. But I'm going to have it in there for about 2 or 3 hours just to make sure that we are good to go. And then you can use it for whatever you would like. Let me know what you plan on doing with your lemon curd or what you like to do with it. I always love to learn from you as well. Have a great one.